Hello, everybody. We have AdvocaSAY again tonight. As you can see, we are wearing our hoodies. One is missing, but it won't be missing next week, right? That's our behind the scenes joke. But tonight we have the Eadie family. I know you guys have seen the great flyers being put out talking about our special guests. We have David, the dad. We have David Jr., we have Dawson, and we have India. So welcome, Eadie family.
Thank you.
Yes. So tonight we want to talk about spinal bifida. We want to talk. Many of us don't know anything about it. We didn't get anything behind the scenes. We're hearing just like you guys are hearing. We're sitting on the edge of our seat. We want to learn. We want to understand. And that's what advocacy is about, helping those to learn and understand. And with that comes compassion, respect, and consideration. So, with all that being said, Eadie family, take it over. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, hi again. Thank you for having us on AdvocaSAY. I'm India, like she said, and David Jr. and Dawson. And Dawson, our youngest son, he does have spina bifida. So spina bifida is a birth defect that affects the spine. Hence the Latin word spina bifida. Um, so his spine, when he was born, well, I should say this. So spina bifida is like a they call it a snowflake birth defect because it's no one person has this affects the same way. So for Dawson, the proper term, he has myelomeningocele. Spina bifida is a certain type of spina bifida where it affects, it depends on the spine where it affects. So where his effects is not too high, but it's not extremely low. So that's like the lumbar, I forgot his number, it's like 47 or something like that. But his considered the myelomeningocele. So when he was born, his spine was exposed. So it was an opening in his back. And his spine was exposed. For some people, it may be not exposed but protruding out. But for him, it was completely exposed. So when a baby is born with spina bifida, they have to have surgery immediately. For him, it was the next day. So they have to close the back so that the spine, the fluid, will not no longer be affected. So with spina bifida, many of the children or adults who may have it will have many diagnoses. So it's just not spina bifida. Spina bifida is like the umbrella diagnosis. So with Dawson, he along with spina bifida, he has hydrocephalus because the back was exposed during my pregnancy. The fluid would enter to his body, and now it's in his brain, his head. So he has to have a shunt, a VP shunt in place to drain the fluid. For us, our brains have a certain amount of fluid in it. For him, it's a continuum, like an overflow. So it continues to, the shunt will drain the fluid. So the shunt is placed in the back of his ear and it drains down in his abdomen area. Again, no one person has it the same. This is just our experience with Dawson, because so many birth defect with this particular birth defect is so different. But depending on the severity of it, depending on it affects their mobility, it affects their bladder use, the bowel use, and it affects it can also affect their intellect. It just really just depends on the child and where it affects. For our son, it does affect his bladder and his bowel, so he doesn't have as much control as you and I may have. For him, it's a continual flow. So for some children with spina bifida, they may not have a flow and they have to get use a catheterization in order to release the urine from their bladder. For him, it's a constant overflow. So the doctors with his whole team, the spina bifida team, he didn't get catheterized for about maybe 4 or 5 years of his life. But then they started noticing that he wasn't releasing all the urine from his from his bladder. So then we started catheterizations, and that's another medical process that we added to our day-to-day life that, at first we were, not resisting to it, because with catheterization, it comes along with UTIs, just another weight that comes along with it. But I will say, since he has started, being um, his bladder is looking great. His kidneys are looking great, because where the bladder is, the kidneys is like right above it. And if you don't release the urine from your bladder, it can affect your kidneys. And then it's a whole another set of issues that can have, health issues that can happen. So, and as you can see, for those who don't know, Dawson does use a wheelchair for his mobility. When he's at school and, sometimes at home, he does utilize a walker, and he's starting to use crutches as well. But his main use of mobility is with the wheelchair. And for him, his wheelchair is a part of him. I know for those who may not be wheelchair users, if you see someone stuck, you want to push it. For him, do not push his wheelchair. That's a part of his body and who he is. So I try to tell individuals, that's him. Don't push his wheelchair. He likes to push it. That's his form of mobility. Just like we just use our legs, that's what he used, and that's his space. So have individuals, try to educate people. Don't just go and try to push him. Sometimes he might not mind, because he can be kind, and other times he is minded. He will advocate for himself and say, don't touch it. So what else am I missing with Dawson?
Just the because of the spina bifida, it causes what is the Chiari malformation.
Oh yes, he does have that diagnosis,
which is really what leads to the hydrocephalus, and that basically, because where the spine was open, it pulls down, and you don't have the pressure to keep where the base of the skull is, and that's where the spinal fluid builds up, and that's why he has to have the shunt, because of that portion. So it's really, three distinct major diagnoses, aside from the bladder and the neurogenic bladder.
Mm-hmm. And bowel.
Yes.
And neurogenic bowel. But like I said, spina bifida is like the umbrella diagnosis.
Right.
But so because of this spina bifida, he has the different other diagnoses along with that. But that's just an overview of what spina bifida is. Again, no one child is the same. They may have different issues other than Dawson. He was just hospitalized 2 weeks ago. He had a virus infection, and one of the workers at night, he came in. She said, "Oh, I noticed that. So on the chart, he has spina bifida." She said, "I have spina bifida." And she's working there. She's working. So you just never know who may. It could be. It's again, it's called myelomeningocele, and that's one. It's not this most severe type of. I think it is the most severe.
Yes.
I think it's the one that I read. It was like a more unique. That's totally. They have no function. Because again, it depends on where that opening is. So if your opening is at the top of the spine, you may not have no function from shoulder on down. So it really depends on where that opening is. But myelomeningocele is one of the I wouldn't say worst, but it's most severe type of spina bifida, and that's what Dawson has. And then you'll see, them using the wheelchair more so. So again, it affects each child differently. Some are walkers. Some may just use crutches. He does have AFOs, which are braces. Some may just use braces. Some, and some may just use a wheelchair permanently. So it all just depends.
Well, I want to commend you.
Saying, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm just saying I want to commend you guys, because you all sound like physicians. I mean,
I was just about to say the same thing, Paula. Like, did you go to medical school? Like,
yeah, like physicians. I mean, it's just rolling off your tongue, but it's the commitment of a parent to understand and know what's going on with their child. Yeah. So, did you guys want to go first? What's going on? Buddy, you have something, Crystal?
Okay. I just was just talking about, the research that they had to do. I'm just impressed at everything that you guys had to research, learn, and how the wheelchair part was. Now that was that was something that was an aha moment for me, because I used to see people, or I see people, and I often think I should help. I can push them through the door. You know, instead of me holding the door, let me just push them through the door. But you made me really think we use our legs to walk, and that's how he walks. Wow. I
Thank
that
you.
I never would have thought it that way. That he appreciates that the wheelchair is a part of him. That's his life.
Right. Right.
I think with that, too, one of the other things is, I think sometimes when you see individuals in wheelchair, it can become more uncomfortable for those of us who can walk.
Yeah.
And you end up having a lot of people that always feel the need to tell the person, "Oh, you'll walk one day," and things of that nature. It's fine to believe that, but a lot of times what happens is the person in the wheelchair, they don't see it as a limitation the way sometimes those of us, because they see they're able to get around, they have mobility. And what we found out is that oftentimes individuals don't want to spend their entire lives just trying to, focus on walking as much as, listen, I'm getting around, I'm moving, I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Focus on living and not just living to do this one thing.
Yes. That's a great perspective.
That's powerful. That is
It is.
powerful.
Yes.
That is powerful, because you get, I guess too, it's in a, I guess for me, it's saying you can be happy in any state.
That's
We
right.
kind of
Absolutely.
set normal to be like, oh, you're walking, you're talking, you can see, you can hear. But if you're not, happiness does not stop. I think that's powerful. That's
And that
powerful.
speaks for many people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, that we need to understand that what makes us happy may not make them happy. And they are enjoying life, and it's not according to how we may feel that they should enjoy life,
That's perfect.
So I really appreciate that. Now, how old is Dawson?
How old are you, Dawson?
Dawson is 6. Wow.
6. Yep, he's 6 years old. Yep.
He's 6 years old, and is he in school?
Are you in school? Yes. What grade are you
Well,
in?
look, just pull that chair on up.
Yeah, I know.
Come on and talk to us,
Let's
Dawson.
have a conversation with Dawson.
Now, I did want to ask too, guys, did you all know about this diagnosis before he was born?
So I was going to mention that. So yes, so a person who like they have this birth defect, you will find out when you find out you're having the sex of the child. So around that 20 week, that's when we found out. So that was a day, unforgettable day, because we're in there, we're like, oh, we wonder what we're going to have, and they paused, and then they went to go get them, they had to go back. It took like 30 minutes, and they came back and they said, we need to talk to you. And they said, your child. We suspect your child's spina bifida, and I had some awareness of what that was. I knew when I heard spina bifida, I knew wheelchair. My husband at the time, he said he had never heard of it. He was, very concerned. I'm like, oh wow. So my immediate thought was, oh, I'm gonna have a child in a wheelchair, And so when you had that conversation with physicians, they always encourage you to abort, because they have to have a quality of life. So then they go down the list of
they gave the worst case scenario.
Yes, they gonna get the worst case.
They made it in that moment sound like the only option was going to be him being almost in this vegetative state. And when we were saying, well, we're going forward, they were, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but it was, do you know how much, this is going to be, it's going to change your life, no quality of life. And do you know the amount of work that, and then, we're like, well, yeah, we'll face whatever it is. I don't think you really understand how bad it can be. And I'm like, like, really? And then of course, you end up, for me, because I didn't know what to think, I went and started researching, and, you do see how, severe things could be. But at the same time, you see that there are a lot of cases where it isn't that severe.
Yeah.
Right.
And, for us, one of the things that we were told was that, essentially that there would be no, intellectual and,
Right.
the ability to learn and all of these different things. And, now I'm like, here he is, and he's, doing well in school. He's, meeting benchmarks and all of these things that
Yes.
It's awesome.
we were told, we were literally told once we went to an appointment, within 5 minutes of the appointment, the individual looked at my wife and I said, yeah, he'll never stand up.
He'll never
He'll never do anything. He'll never walk, and just walked out of the room. And I was like, we just kind of looked at each other. And so we ended up switching and going to Boston Children's Hospital, which has been great. And, he's able to, he can stand up and he can walk with crutches, something that they told us he would never be able to do. So a lot of things that, if I can say to anyone that might be in that position, a lot of things, and I say this again, not disparaging the medical field at all, but, children are more resilient than what people think they can be. And everything, it can be a scary time, but, when I say there's no, there's nothing that I would necessarily change about him because of who he is, he's who he is. And it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
It is.
That was good.
It is. Wow. So Dawson, what grade are you in?
First grade.
First grade.
First grade. Wow.
Wow. You're a little shy, huh?
I think right now he's not really a shy kid at all.
No.
Okay. We're putting him on the spot. Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting ready to warm up now.
I know.
Oh, you warming up.
Mhm.
So how do you have a lot of friends at school, Dawson? You do? Okay. Okay.
Oh, they call Dawson the mayor.
Oh,
Come on, man.
Dawson's in his wheelchair talking to everyone and knows everyone. Everyone knows Dawson.
and I'm getting some of the comments that tell me too. Dawson is
Dawson
not
is not shy.
No, he's not at all.
But I want
Dawson
you to
is
know,
popular.
very popular. But Morgan also has hydrocephalus. So the way that you guys were explaining it, my daughter has hydrocephalus. She has a mild case. She doesn't have a shunt, but a lot of the fluid is the cerebral fluid, and she has a blockage. Well, it's not a blockage, but it flows slower between her third and her second ventricle. So they thought that I actually took her for her eye appointment last week. They had an MRI because they thought they were going to have to go in, and it's called the procedure is called ETV, where they go in at the top of her skull, close out the pathway that's very narrow, and they were going to open up a brand new pathway.
Wow.
But so when you say about the hydrocephalus, I did have an MRI when I was pregnant, and they told me she was going to have hydrocephalus like you guys. I'm like, what is that? And and just like you guys, they were like, you may want to abort, because we don't know this, that. And they were like, we're going to send you for the amnio. And I said, it's no sense. I'm not aborting my child. So
Right.
That's what we said.
but you know what I told them yesterday? I love to hear what the doctors say she cannot do and what she won't do, because you know what that says? That God stepped in and he made a way. I wouldn't know she's a miracle if I didn't get the hard stories. So when they say it, they sit there and they say, do you know what you looking at? I'm like, I know she's a miracle. And I'm going to keep claiming her as a miracle, because everything you tell me she won't do, I'm looking for God to say, no, she will do it.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's how all those grim things, I think we all can
relate
to. That we've gotten those grim diagnoses, and it'll send you home crying. It'll send you in a state that, from a mental standpoint, I know what they're doing, but at the same time, you don't know the state of a person, and you don't
Exactly.
know what that will do. So I definitely can attest to that.
Look at you. You went to medical school too, Paula.
Girl, I ain't had no other choice.
They actually talked to us about that same surgery, the ETV. And
Yes.
when we had went to Boston, he already had his shunt in place. So they said if he ever needed to have a revision, that would be a possibility
Yes.
for us. And then they could, remove
the shunt.
altogether. But one thing that you said that I completely agree with, and I think it's important for us as believers, is that a lot of times when we think miracle, we think that it only looks one way.
That's right.
And to me and to us, and when we see what God has already done with Dawson in his life, like the miracle has already been performed. And yes, we're believing
birthed
more
the
miracles and those things. So when, to us, like whether or not he would, permanently get out of his wheelchair or not, he's already a living.
Yes.
That's right.
Just
Right. He's happy. He's thriving. Yeah.
God is
Exactly.
able to do. Yes.
One a few years back, Paula, you had made a status, and it always stuck with me. It was actually maybe around the time I was pregnant with Dawson or just had him, and you had made a status about Morgan and people stating, "Oh, believe for a miracle, believe for a miracle," and you were stating you don't know how many miracles that she's already.
Oh my goodness!
Right.
Yeah, because
Not
when
enough time.
she was born, she had this and this doesn't happen anymore. I can't recite it verbatim what you had stated, but that stuck with me because I said, you know what, God, and I had told my church this, God will have perform miracles in increments. He'll do something right here, and that I give him thanks for. He'll do something right here for Dawson. Maybe he has to be cast, but sometimes he doesn't have a lot of feeling in his legs, even though he can walk. He can try to walk, but still he touched the back of his foot. You know how we laugh and tickle. He doesn't have that. So one day I was playing with his foot, and he said, "I felt something." And I said, God, I thank you.
Right.
That's right.
Doctor said that it can't
Miracles lining up.
It's those miracles that people know, those small miracles. I think that's what you mentioned in your status, that we give God thanks for, that people may looking at the bigger picture, but it's those small things that God is showing us. I'm still here with you.
I know
I
that's
love
right.
it. I love it. I love it. And we need that. We
Yeah.
need to be reminded. We need to be reminded. Okay, so Bunny and Crystal, I'm not going to take
Yes.
over.
Well, I think because we have Dawson and David here,
I
like I
want
want
to
to
say
know. Yeah, like are they attending school together?
Yes. So funny thing, we all are. So I teach 3rd grade. He teach 6th grade. He's in 6th. So yeah. So we're all at the same school. So
that's one car ride to school.
That's one car ride to school. And that's an extra pair of eyes on my son, so I can advocate.
It sure is. It sure is. I love it. And so, since we have David here, David Jr.,
Hi,
how is it
David.
in school? Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I'm good.
That's good. And David, we definitely want to have a show with you. We're going to make you talk to us. We're going to make you talk to us.
Being a big brother, I know he's protective of Dawson.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. I think that's awesome that they're in school together.
Yeah. What did you ask? I'm sorry, we missed it.
What grade is David in?
I'm in 6th grade.
Wonderful.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Middle school.
Wow. Is that middle school at that point?
No, it's still elementary here. So
in some places it still is.
Yep, he's 12. Yep, he's 12. He's 12 years old. Yeah. Did you have
So, David, have you ever had to defend your brother in school for any reason?
No. Well, first because there's like 3 levels to our school, so his grade is on the top level, so I'm on the bottom level, so I don't see him as much, but from what I hear, he has been doing pretty having good days at school, and I think people are pretty nice to him.
Okay.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't know if you had to jack up anybody on the playground messing with your brother.
I know that's right. Well, it sounds like Dawson is real sociable and likable, and also You know, Dawson like living his best life. He like, I'm up on the top floor. I'm good
Right,
straight.
Oh, Dawson, he advocates for himself because you don't mess with him in that wheelchair because he'll try to run.
Oh, Dawson, he used the weapons that he had, the
Don't get no
weapons of
speeding tickets.
Okay.
No speeding tickets, Dawson, in
I
the
told
wheelchair.
I told him that. Yeah, he liked to speed, right? You like to speed in school?
what is he whispering to tell you?
He said, "No, I don't." Yes, he
No,
does.
I don't. So could you guys, since you both are in the school system in the building actually with him, like what kind of supports does Dawson receive?
So he receives physical therapy twice a week. So he does. Yep, PT. Yep, he said PT.
All right.
And I'll give it up to the PT physical therapist. He started going. We moved out. We were living right outside of Boston, and then we purchased a home like towards Western Mass. So it was a very rural, not as diverse area, and so we didn't know how it was going to go. But I will say that the PT he has grown leaps and bounds with his mobility at this PT. They've worked really hard with him, along with Boston Children's Hospital, because he does receive outpatient therapy. But they have really worked with him to get him to the place where he is. I will say that they have done a wonderful job. But along with PT is speech. He does do speech because he talks well. He's a lot better now, but at one point we wasn't understanding what he was saying. He was talking a lot of gibberish, but he's still in speech. We're just making sure that he stay on top of his speech. But those are the only two services he's receiving.
Okay.
Along with he gets cath, by the nurses school and things like that. But yeah, so we're there supporting him, making sure that he does. Okay, he said he wants to tell you the name of the school.
Oh, okay. Tell us.
So, say it again. Fisher Hill. I mean,
Okay. You like your school. I take it you really like your school.
Yes.
You done? He does receive one-to-one support too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say he does receive one-to-one support because of his bladder and bowel. So he has some. I mean, intellectually he's cool, great, but he gets supports around that because we don't want, that's a very sensitive subject, especially in school.
It is.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
do have some one-to-one support until he's able to be able to catheterize independently.
Okay.
And that makes sense. So it sounds like he's like in a general ed setting.
He is.
Yes, that's awesome.
That's really good.
Yes. And so I really like that he is that one-on-one, that one-to-one support right there with him, because you're also still among your peers. And you want to be able to keep on moving forward just as your peers. And that's beautiful. I love that.
Yes, he is. So and when he first started, he was speeding a lot in that wheelchair, so we had to get someone to help him. So slow down. They have a hill, and he's going down the hill. That could be a safety issue.
Yes.
So that one.
He's a typical boy.
Yes, he is.
He's a typical. Yes.
Yeah. Instead of running, he's rolling.
He is rolling. Okay, he does nothing, and that's what I love about him, because that's one thing I've learned. Nothing stops him. He's wherever he is, he's rolling in, and he's going to make his mark on this world and make himself known. But it's that fearlessness that he has, and that that boldness that he has, and I love about it. Be who you are, and not ashamed of what it is. Because you're not like everyone else, but bring what you can to the table. And
it's great to be unique. It's great to be unique.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't appreciate that. Yeah, but then sometimes they don't appreciate that. Yeah. And sometimes I think we don't appreciate that until at my age. I'm appreciating my, my abilities that don't line up with everybody else. Sometimes we, you just starting to appreciate. But I taught, my son when he was younger. I said the one thing I loved about Morgan is she didn't care what anybody thought. She could walk in, and I mean, honestly, she marches to her own drum. What is it? I guess I'm saying it right. But it's the thing where, people could be laughing at her. It's kind of bittersweet because, she doesn't understand, but it's not even a bad thing that she doesn't, because it's like, who cares? I'm happy. This makes me happy.
Right.
Who cares? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I do.
And then he starts. It's a little funny little things they start doing too, because like what Dawson would start doing when if he thought he was going to get in trouble, he would do something like, "My back hurts," and we're like, really?
Typical boy.
Yes.
He uses what he has. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
He's like, you ain't have to call me out like that, Dad.
That's right.
Oh, all
Dawson,
your
claim them
secrets.
eggs. Claim them eggs. That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Does it change the punishment? Does it change it? If it does, I use it
Right.
again.
Right.
Because they both have chores. We try to make sure that they both are equally doing stuff.
Yes.
But
Yes.
whenever it comes down to Dawson doing his chores, like he'll be moving
My
around
head.
the house.
Oh, my head.
He's on his walker. He's all over the place. And as soon as he said, "Well, Dawson, go," I can't get all the way over there. And I'm like,
You done showed us what you capable. Dawson, you got to keep that stuff a secret. You
I know.
can't show all your cards at one time.
yes, and you getting our blast in front of the whole world.
Whole world.
Oh my God.
David,
I love
it's the first time he done lit up since we've been talking.
Yes.
He like,
David, do you take on more of the chores to help your brother, or are you aware of his games now?
Yes, I'm aware. I just, like helping clean the rooms. Like I can't do that. It's like I can't pick up stuff and put it away. It'll be on the floor. David's the one that told us about him because we were.
Oh my goodness.
Look at Dawson. He like, let me block him.
Right.
one night, David told
Dawson
me,
has learned the game early.
Yes, he did.
David told me, he said, "When you guys leave, that's when Dawson goes to action." We was like, "What?"
Yes.
I love it.
Look, as
it.
parents, we need to make sure we got some paper. Be like, what else is he doing?
Exactly.
What else is he doing?
Yeah.
Just start
Or put
writing
them
everything down.
Put them secret cameras in there.
Yes.
Dawson probably cutting up. I'm gonna tell y'all this. We used to always, when Jeremy was younger, every time something would break in the house, it was me, Jeremy, and Morgan here. I said, "Jeremy, did you break this?" He said, "I didn't do it." I said, "Now wait a minute. I didn't do it. And if you didn't do it, how did Morgan do it?" He said, "Mom, I believe when we go to sleep, she is secretly in here doing stuff."
You set up cameras, Paula. Did you set up some cameras?
No, I told Jeremy, I said it got, but some things I was like, is she really doing this stuff? Because it's like, if I ain't doing it and you ain't doing it, who's doing it? He said, "Mom, I'm telling you."
They know how to run game.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how you know they are very much intelligent.
Exactly.
And you know that. Like I'd be like, I didn't even think of this. You think you're smarter than me now? They are very intelligent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. I do have a question to ask David and India. I just kind of want to know, like, what advice would you have someone who's just starting this journey? Like they're just receiving this diagnosis of their baby and they're just starting out.
Well, for me, I could go first. I would definitely say you're not alone. There's depending on what state you live in, but it doesn't matter because we're all connected, like through the internet, through social platforms. But there's so many, especially with spina bifida. It's one of the more. It is not going to say popular, but more common birth defect. So there's the spina bifida clinic. There's so many supports out there. But when you get that first diagnosis, you're not going to feel supported. You're going to feel alone, and you're going to feel, especially for the woman, because it happens in the womb. That maybe that shame may come upon you or that guilt may be there. And I would say to any mom, any dad, that it's not your fault. Birth defects happen all the time. It's like out of out of 3 pregnancies, if one person was to receive a diagnosis of spina bifida, you're not alone. You don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel ashamed about it. But just know, if you're a believer, that God will be with you.
Yes.
Amen.
I don't just that when I first got it, I accepted it, but I didn't fall into a deep depression, but it was there because it was just the unknown and I didn't know. And then it just really felt like it was my fault. I'm carrying the child and something happened in my womb that this happened to him. Like now it's my fault that my child is like this. And it took me
quite some time to really move past that 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 bad space, I'll say, and
Mhm.
for me to be healed, to say, it's not me. God created my child this way, and I accepted it, and I moved forward in it and walked in it. And not treating him any differently when it comes to discipline or not.
Yes.
He's still a child, and he's his child,
Yes.
and I was granted this opportunity to nurture him and to love him. So I take that. So you're not alone. Don't feel shamed or ashamed or embarrassed or that guilt. God is with us, and you are supported.
Yes.
Amen.
As a dad, David.
It can be rough. I mean, when you see your child from the father perspective, and you're thinking that your one job is to, if nothing else, protect them and to make things all right. And there are things that you're just, powerless to
Hmm.
do. It can leave you in a different type of, um, you know, depressing feeling, particularly when, you're looking at, your child, or even when India was dealing and going through things that I couldn't really, um, identify with.
Mhm.
And you just feel, you can feel very powerless
Hmm.
in those moments going through it, even as believers and having faith. It can be very, very, um it can be hard. It can be very difficult.
Yes.
And I think that one of the things that you have to do, number one, is to give yourself and allow yourself the grace
Yes.
Absolutely.
to feel.
Yes.
Because I think, for me personally, being again in church and being a believer, we feel like we just have to be strong, and I got
Yes.
faith, and
Yes.
none of these things shall move me. But I think it's important to allow yourself to go through the emotions,
Hmm.
because you are experiencing something that there's nothing that can prepare you for it.
Right.
I don't care how long you've been, a person of faith or whatever. There's nothing that prepares you for those moments, and the emotions are going to come, and you have to, instead of trying to run away from the emotions and
Face
just, overlook them and make it, okay. You have to allow yourself to feel those emotions, and then take it, one day at a time,
Yes.
and take the victories. And then also know that along with those victories, you're going to have those moments where, we would go into the hospital and like everything's been great. And then you walk in and they say, oh, yeah, we noticed something else. And you're like, well,
Another surgery.
you know,
Right.
and those things happen. And it can, in a moment, just a few weeks ago, we were there in, my wife, she was at an event with the sisters from the church, and I'm home with one of our ministers from the church, Minister Smith, who had came up to visit, and we were there talking, and Dawson just sits up and grabs his head and starts screaming, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? And then from that one moment, we end up going to the hospital,
And was there for a while.
and we're in the hospital. We end up in, from just in a split second, it turned up into 8 days in the hospital.
Oh
And
no.
these are the moments where, to me, they're the things that you can't prepare for. They just
Right.
there, and you deal with them and you get through it. But what I would say is that, you know, family and children, like, you're more resilient than what you may believe, and you can do more, you can handle more than what you can. And then lastly, I would say to not feel like you have to do it all on your own.
Yes.
Whether it's individually or as a couple, make sure that the family support that you have around you, talk to them and educate them about, what this is going to look like. Because, our house, we had accessible, but what does it look like when we go to, grandma's house or whatever?
Right.
So, instead of just expecting family to just know, I think it's important to sit down and talk, and not, one thing, if I can say, I think, a lot of times we have a difficult time with, and I think that what you don't want to do is to be secretive and make the person feel like their condition is something to be ashamed about. Don't, like, we can't talk about it. No. So we were very open early on. Our son has spina bifida. It's nothing to hide. It's nothing to be ashamed about. And you educate your family and say, this is what it looks like. This is what life is like. And those things, when you do that, it helps. It helps you because people are aware and people are understanding. Your family unit, your friends, whoever you have, that support grows. And we were able to get into groups, whether it's spina bifida support groups on Facebook, and different families and different people that have children with spina bifida. I became friends with people that are across the country that I actually talk with, who has one gentleman who has a daughter with spina bifida, thinks around Dawson's age. And every once in a while we'll communicate and just kind of encourage each other, because he'll be posting things and I'll post things, and just all of those types of things. You become part of another community that, for us, I think we were somewhat aware, but being a part of the community,
right,
it really is to me, and it's, I don't know if everyone would completely understand, but it's really a special community to be a part of.
Yes.
It's a wonderful community.
Absolutely.
It opens you up to so many different things. And once you're there, yes, things get difficult, but it really just changes your perspective on life. And you really appreciate each moment and everything that comes along with life. So that's what I would, if I can give any.
Oh,
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Especially hearing it from a dad's point of view, a father, a male point of view. I mean, so many things you said that I just so agree with. And something you said, like Bunny and Paul and I were discussing last night, was just like, you don't want to really be ashamed of it.
Yes.
You're not sure what you're projecting onto your child when you're doing that. But, it's very, in my household, I have 5 children, and 3 have, diagnosis. And I've told all 5 of my children, hey, in this household, everybody got special needs. So don't sit up here and think that someone is better than the other. Everyone has many great skills. My daughter with cerebral palsy is like the A1 banker. Like, we all should be taking loans from her. This girl is tight with her money. She gonna survive in these streets. And so, and then I had another kid will spend all his money on lunch and all the snacks. We like, dude, you can't keep $1. So it's just, not being ashamed.
Yes.
And it's what you said, like how we set it up in our homes. So we're not ashamed. We're going to talk about this openly, and as open as we spread out to family and friends, even neighbors. Sometimes, depending on what you're dealing with, you might have to let your neighbors know. You might see my kid outside. Could you help me? Let me know. My kid elopes and I'm doing my best, or whatever the case. Like, not being ashamed and being able to share it. Like, I enjoyed that. You guys put out really good points. And like you said, India, oh my gosh, India, you said it's not your fault.
Yeah.
I knew about my son's condition. He's 12 and he's in 6th grade. Roman, he's the same age as David.
Same day.
Yeah, they're born on the same day. India and I are pregnant, and we were just on Facebook like, we're due on this day.
We did.
But that was a tough pregnancy, because in utero, I found out that his insides, his abdomen cavity was in his umbilical cord. So I too knew he was entering the world with challenges, and I did not know how that would look. And it did start at an ultrasound, and the things that you just described, like, you feel those things like, oh my gosh, nobody's gonna understand. How can my husband David relate? I'm carrying this on my own. What did I do? Did I not eat? Did I not have a good intake of folic acid?
Exactly.
I was like, I didn't take those prenatals because they nasty. I was like, I'll take them now. Right? Yes. It was so stressful, even after knowing, and the burden and the weight I carried. And I did release it to a dear sister in the Lord here. And I remember she just answered the phone and I couldn't even talk. And she began to pray. And so, with that burden that I carry until I could see what is to come. And then that's a whole new challenge because you have to get through it. You two shared beautiful words and encouragement for a parent that's just starting this. I wish I heard those words.
Me too. Oh my goodness.
I do have a follow-up question when you're done, Crystal.
Go ahead, Bonnie. I'm done. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So I love the story of how you two coped with the diagnosis on an individual basis. How did that affect your marriage, your time together, and just, dealing with everything that was put before you? How did that affect your relationship?
I think right before we found out about the diagnoses, like every marriage, you have a cycle, right? You go through seasons of like ups, downs, you go through trials, tribulations. And I think right before then, we had a really deep discussion about how we're going to be moving forward, how we were affecting each other, just in general. And I'm glad that God had us have that discussion right before the diagnoses, because he knew that we had to come together. Either we're going to come together or not. Because those situations like that, it either breaks you apart or it brings you closer together.
Yes.
And I think that once we found out the diagnoses, we went into prayer and we had decided that we didn't tell anyone for the next 9 months. I think we just leaned on each other. And I know after we had the diagnosis, people were like, why didn't you tell us? We could have been praying. Like their prayer was more effective than anyone else's. Not saying that. I know they care for us and they wanted to know. But I think at that moment, I think me and David and I wanted to just bond together with that and with this situation. And through that 9 months, I mean, David's he's a really great dad. He's a very caring dad. And that's why I thank God that he placed him in my life for him, because it's hard, we don't have a supportive system. And I think it really just brought us closer together. So when, just like we had the recent hospitalization, I was there from like Saturday to Monday. He stayed at the hospital from Tuesday to Friday, and I switched off. So, because I had just started the teaching job. So it's really, we communicate, which someone said is key. We have to communicate with each other and make sure that he's feeling okay and I'm feeling okay. So maybe times where I'm like, well, how are you feeling? Like, let's deal with your feelings. Let's see what you're going through. And then vice versa, he'll do it for me. Because I had to come to the point, because with mothers, we're like always feeling that weight. And I had, when we first had Dawson, because he was in NICU for quite some time too, because of the surgery. And, I just asked him, how are you feeling? Because a lot of times males' feelings don't get acknowledged during that time. Absolutely. And that was only through prayer, because I was caught up in myself and God, I had to really say, how my spouse is feeling, just to make sure that we're both communicating. I think that's what we did so we can bond. And then through that, I had to make sure I communicate with my oldest son, because then we'll get caught up. Okay, I got this son, got this son like this. And then, he's left kind of alone too. So with that, we just had to create that, to have that open communication with each other and making sure that we're both in a safe space. So I'm his safe space and he's mine.
That's good, because there's a lot of young couples out that's having, and it seems like there's so many children being born now with some type of special needs, either autism or something. So it's a big challenge to deal with that kiddo and then still come together and be able to have open dialogue and talk about the tough conversations. I saw somebody in the chat that said, go through the emotions. And that's what made me think, as a mom, we're already emotional that this is happening to our children. So that is good that, for young people, not even really just young people, but couples going through this and it's new to them.
Yes.
I think too, it's that part can be a little bit more challenging for, I would say, I think most men, because my default is fix the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
When I was watching and seeing India, go through, her emotions, then, trying to figure out, how do I make it better? And
Wow.
then, feeling like I was unable to make it better. Sometimes as a man, you don't want to be withdrawn. You just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And learning and figuring out how to just be there and lean on each other and not necessarily, and to know that you don't necessarily have to fix it.
Right.
I think it's very important because that's where sometimes, if you're not careful, the separation could come in because you feel like I'm failing at doing what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
And in the process, at feeling like you're failing because you can't fix it,
Yeah.
you can fail because you're not just being present and just being
Yeah.
there. And those are some strong emotions that it's hard because now I have to think about, well, how exactly am I feeling in this moment? And it was one of the things that was challenging is prior to Dawson being born, just a few years prior, we had lost what would have been our second son.
Oh
And
wow.
Oh wow.
we were still kind of dealing with
Mm-hmm.
the loss and just the grief from that. And so going from that into this scenario,
More pain.
Wow.
was
Oh
it
my
was
goodness.
on top of
Top of
pain.
pain. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, one of the interesting things that happened going through that, India was home primarily with David Jr., but we kind of had like, it just kind of like naturally happened. We kind of had like this switching in when Boston was born. And I ended up being with him more during that first 3 years when he was in early intervention. And it allowed me in that moment. And I had went and started, I um, went and got went and got a license in personal training and things like that. Just so, because I was looking at what he was doing and feeling like, you know what, I'm going to do something too to just kind of like motivate and push, and then I could help him. And in those years, I think kind of like being in that place where I was able to be there with him and have that experience of what it was like, you know, being that almost like that nurturing part as well.
Mm-hmm.
It enabled me to emotionally, understand and see and connect with India in a place where I don't know that I would have been able to previously based on those experiences. And so I think one of the things that's important when you're coming together is, to really communicate and talk and understand with just kind of like make the world small and kind of get rid of the expectations of who has to do what.
Yes.
And
That's
because
true.
now you entered into this space where you have to understand what each other needs,
Right.
not based on a preconceived notion of what I have to do or what she has to do.
Right.
What can we do together for
Yeah.
each other?
That's
And
good. That's
that
good stuff.
worked so well in that season and got us to this place now. And so I think ultimately through that, it drew us closer together because we really leaned on each other for that strength and support. And when one was overwhelmed, the other one was able to say, "You know what? I got it."
Yes.
You
Oh
know?
wow. I
That
like
is
that.
so good. That is so good. That is so
The
Beautiful.
partnership is great. That partnership is great.
It
I mean,
is.
it really is. And I think just like you guys were saying, what stuck out to me more was removing the mask. And I think India said that because, I've known India. I think India, when I first met you, India was like maybe like 11 or 12.
Yes.
And I look at her now and I'm like, wow, it's just amazing to me. I never doubted that she would be a great mom, but who knew the situation, or who you would be a mother to. But
Right.
I like the fact that you guys talk about the emotions, because I think
Yes.
one thing that is so important, and I know for me, I went through it, and I went through it alone. I
Mm.
went through I came to church. I had to put that mask on. I may have cried the whole way to
You
church.
made it look so easy,
I,
Paula.
I don't that's why I'm just like now so transparent. I cried all the time. And I would hate for people to come, even my cousin would say, "You're so strong." I said, "Stop saying that."
Right.
Because the Lord is like, I'm expose her for who she is. And He gonna keep putting it on me because I'm really not strong. I'm really not. But
Mhm.
I struggled, and I struggled. So I think you struggle anyway, but I think the
Right.
hardest part of the struggle is not being able to show people that I'm struggling because I'm going through this thing, and I can't really tell everybody what I'm going through. And my best friend and my sister knew. I would say, if I really tell everybody what I'm going through, they would have me on suicide watch,
Mhm.
because I
Mhm.
was under so much pressure, and I was going through so much. I was trying to be something for Jeremy, and I was trying to be something for Morgan. And I worked a full-time job. He was at one school, she was at another school. I was
Mhm.
late picking them up all the time, rushing on the subway. The subways break down. Then you start driving the beltway back up. It was just like I felt like I had no relief.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people just need to understand, and I think it's coming out more now, that be you. Go ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
that confidant,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was by God's grace that I just did not fall apart. But there were times that I would call Crystal and I call my sister, and I just lost it. I just lost it. So I think what I would want to just drive home to people is, have that confidant. Be real with people. Show them
Yes.
what you're going through. Get the help that you need, because one
Absolutely.
thing that I did neglect during that time is my mental
Yes.
stability, and it was just by God's grace I didn't lose it. So
Mhm.
Can I
that's just hard.
Yeah, no,
can I say something with that, because I didn't want to cut you off, but I think one of the things that, and when you were just talking, if I can say that, I think our what we view as strong sometimes is misguided, because we think strength has to look strong,
Oh my
but
goodness.
sometimes strength is looking weak,
Like
and
we looking.
sometimes there's strength in that struggle. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes when we feel like we have to come in and show everybody, look, I got it all together, sometimes the strength is saying, I ain't got it all together.
How about that?
And
Yeah.
how
Not trying to pretend.
yes.
That's
I'm
right.
strong enough to recognize that
Yeah.
I need help. I'm strong
yes.
enough to
Yeah.
recognize that emotionally I'm barely making it through. But
Mm.
in this in this in spite of that, even in those lowest moments, in those dark moments, in those emotional moments, you know, I don't, you just, I don't want to say you find a way, but
You
it's like
do.
sometimes it's just like,
Yeah.
you're just literally just existing
Yeah.
and existing in His grace. Like, God, if your
This
grace
is
is not
true.
here, I
I
don't.
won't make it.
That's it right there. We're existing through his grace.
Yes.
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 I
And
love it. I love it. I
This
think
is
that
good.
it
Very
is. It is. And then Paula, I was one of the ones when Paula would call me,
mm,
I would say I did stop saying it, but because I didn't think I was expressing it correctly. But I used to say,
mm,
"You're strong." It's because when Paula was very vulnerable
Yes.
and
mm,
she was sharing to me, I draw strength from it because I saw
mm.
her always pulling through. And
Wow.
I used to really, because in those moments I thought, well, I guess I can't share what I'm dealing with.
Oh my.
But Paula, for her
Mm,
to Paul and just share and be that open. It's personal. Everyone's not going to relate to that conversation. Everyone's not going to relate to that struggle. People try to give you answers, and you're like, you have neurotypical kids. It's not quite the same. It don't work over here, and And so I probably did not express it that way, but I would gain strength, and I would get off the phone, and I would feel like a little bit, I can do this with the help of the Lord.
Wow.
And I used to always feel that way. And then I stopped, Paul. I stopped saying it because
You did.
I think I was saying it correctly. I couldn't really express what I was getting, because we were in the same boat in how we were feeling about different things, but the way Paula would share it, I cannot express. It was, oh my gosh, I can't express how it was to me. And I mean, that is sometimes was my lifeline. And I never got to say a word. I was just being a listener.
She was.
And I was just crying on the phone,
my eyes,
praying. I was at my daughter's volleyball game, and I was like, I can't go in. Like, I'm up here and I'm trying to get myself together. And when she come on, I'm like, girl, you did a good job. I didn't even see the game. I was just like, I was getting help. I was having a little private healing session.
Yeah. Thank you. Girl, I just tell you, it just brings tears to my eyes, because you just look back and you be like, when they sing that song, How I Made It Over, some people probably thought I was going crazy in the church, but I was like, you just don't know. You just don't know. You just don't know.
I never looked at you and saw any type of struggle. It seemed like you had it all together, and maybe that was just God's way of showing someone you can do it too. Look at Paula, you can do it too, because I promise you, you had Morgan in check. You look good. Morgan look good. Y'all hair stayed done. We saw the good in all of that.
Yes.
Paula, and I know it now that I'm dealing with a special needs grandson. I know the challenges, the struggle, the heartache, the everything that comes with that. But I promise you, Paula, you made it look easy.
You did.
And again, that's to help somebody.
It is.
It help you in the moments, but I'm telling you, somebody looked at your life. I looked at your life and was like, oh my gosh, she is so strong. She is so this, she is so that. She got it together. I looked at you that way. And this is your season to really share all of that.
Yes.
To know that if he did it for you, you got through it. You're helping somebody that maybe we can kind of like not go the same struggle route, but go, it's an easier way to get there.
Yes.
Girl.
That's bring me to tears. Oh.
Paula, you've done it. AdvocaSAY is here.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. This has been amazing.
Come on, David. Come on.
I'm just gonna say, and on a note, like the wonderful and the amazing thing, and you can feel this God's spirit just here, because I believe that something so wonderful is occurring, and everything that you went through in that moment is really just elevating, a community of people, of believers, and showing that, look, this is real, and you can still have God, you can still worship, and you can still praise in that, struggle that you're feeling and everything of that nature, without, sometimes we think that everything has before that comes, but in the midst of all of that, look at how God is just operating.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Together through
this is about the Eadies tonight, guys.
We're not even here if not for that struggle.
Right. That's what I'm about to say. AdvocaSAY would not be here. It was birth out of Paula's struggle. And when Paula told me this what she want to do, she was like, I'm doing this, Crystal, and you're doing it with me too.
And look at how God set it up.
Yes, he did.
Sent you a man that loves your daughter like his own.
Yes, he does. Yes,
you didn't go through for nothing.
He did. He did. He did. When I just tell you guys, thank you. I feel like I've gotten my flowers tonight, but it's the Eadies.
No, it is all about you. I was going to say,
I love you guys.
yeah,
I
we
love
love
you
you
guys.
too. I was just going to add, Paula, like
Oh my
you have,
goodness.
I've known her since I was 11, and just to
Yeah.
see her walk through, I was going to say, you are a template of what we have now, because of
Mm.
you. So I thank you, because all I saw was just the grace of God over you. When I used to see you in
Thank
Morgan,
you.
if it was in, because I grew up in Waldorf, we were not living not too far from each other. When I used
Yes.
to see you, I was just saying, just saw the grace of God,
Yeah.
Thank
just
you.
the grace of
Thank
God.
you, Lord. To
Like everyone
God
said,
be the glory. To
we're here
God
because
be
of
the
you.
glory.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I take no glory
It
for
wasn't for
myself.
nothing. It
no,
wasn't
Yes.
for nothing.
it
When
wasn't.
I tell you this was an awesome show, guys. When I just
Yes,
tell you,
I've
Edie's, you
enjoyed
got the.
you, David
When
and
I just tell
India.
you, I really, really enjoyed this. I think each time we have a show, it goes higher, and I just give glory and honor to God. I'm not sure who's not a believer here, but this right here is based off of the Lord. I
Yeah,
mean, there is you can't have any success story without Jesus' name being all in it. It
Come on
can't
with it.
be. It can't.
Come
It
on with
can't.
it.
I
man.
don't know. I don't know another way. I
No.
don't.
Come
I
on
There
don't.
with
is
it.
no other way.
It's no other
Oh,
way.
no
It's
other
no
way.
other way.
What's that
Mm,
song?
mm,
One,
mm.
one, one.
Yeah.
Other way.
Right?
Can I just say this? I really believe that this show is going to speak to people who have felt as if God hasn't seen them.
Ah,
Mm.
we
Ask
touched about
themselves the
that yesterday.
question, well, God, why?
Mhm.
God, why did my child? God, why did I?
Mhm.
And I believe through these stories and these testimonies, people can see that, well, wait a minute. There's still
Yes.
a beauty in
Yes.
all of everything that God has created, and it doesn't have to be, looked at in such a negative way
Exactly.
that as if God forgotten us, and how through these testimonies and these stories and how God just allowed you to pull this together.
Yes.
I believe there's so many people that are going to look at it and be drawn in and say, you know what? Yeah, I want that. you know,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
and
Yes.
even if the physical healings and all that, doesn't happen in that way,
Yes.
the fact that even through it we can still have the joy and
Amen.
That's right.
experience the togetherness that God has done in these situations. You can't really explain it if you don't or haven't experienced it.
Yes.
I totally agree. Oh
Mm.
my, when I just tell you, I don't know what else to say, David. This is my
Look,
first
we done
time
had
meeting
church
you.
close us out in prayer. No,
Yes. No, we gotta take up
who's gonna do the
offering
Yes,
first.
benediction?
When I tell you the next time you come here, I have got to meet you face to face. I think it was a time he came and he preached, and I saw him from afar. I saw India from afar, but
Oh,
I
I
have
talked to
got.
you. I talked to you in
You
more.
did. You sure did. You sure did.
Did you show
But
me
I got.
Jeremy?
Yes. They were the family. I just want everybody to know they used to babysit Jeremy when he was a baby.
We
They
did.
had him around the house shouting and preaching. He was a little one and
He
putting a
was a preacher.
yeah, he was just shouting everywhere, and they would have him in there. The whole family would have him in there, like Jeremy preach. Jeremy would preach and be wiping his forehead. 1 and 2 years
Laying
old
hands.
doing
Laying hands.
that. That was laying hands on people and everything. We didn't even
Yeah.
know what God was doing. But I
Yes.
just
Yes.
yes, and I mean, and when I will say I have a beautiful son. God is just
Amen.
awesome,
Yes.
awesome,
Yes.
awesome.
God be the
So
glory.
I just want to thank you guys. Oh my, this is not
Yes.
the last time you guys are gonna be here. I'm already telling you that. Now you are this is not the last time, but I just thank you guys. This was
Thank
such
you.
a beautiful session. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
even
Absolutely.
with David, I thank
Yes.
God. He
Yeah.
reminded me of Mark. He gave us such things to feast off of. When Mark Brooks was here,
Oh,
yeah,
Yes.
when it was time for him to speak, he had such words of wisdom. I mean, and I think,
mm-hmm.
to hear it from a man and to hear it from a
Yes.
godly man is even
Yes.
better. So I
Mhm.
just thank you guys so much for sharing your story. I
Thank
thank you
you.
guys. I thank all of the people, guys, you brought them out. You got them out here. I thank you for
Thank
all
you,
the
family. Thank you, Vicky.
I'm sorry we have not responded to anything. We have been engrossed in this
Right.
conversation, but we definitely will make sure that we make some comments to you guys. But thank you guys for attending. Thank you. Thank the Eadie family for coming. I
Thank
guess
you.
Dawson and David got tired of us. They
Yeah,
they don't left.
Yeah.
When Dawson gets ready for, we don't have to tell him to go. He said, "Listen, I'm tired.
He
I'm out."
said, Mom,
Yeah.
He goes
I
to
ain't
bed.
even married.
it's their
But
bed.
thank you guys so much. I mean, we've gone over our time, but when I just tell you this was so enjoyable, I
Yes.
really, really appreciate it. And then just learning about spinal bifida, I just
Yes.
thank you guys. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
so transparent. I appreciate it.
Oh,
And until the next time, because we will be back. We will
Okay.
be
Yes.
back. Yes. So good night, everybody. Again,
Good
thanks.
night.
This is the Eadie family, Paula, Bunny, and Crystal signing off. Until next Thursday. All
Next
right,
time.
guys.
Have a good
Have a
night.
good one.
Night.
Bye.
Bye.